Hello, everyone. Welcome to Backyard Musings, broadcasting live from Apple Valley. I'm Steve.
And I'm Scott.
Thank you for joining us today. If you likey, subscribey, and tell your family, your friends, your enemies that we're here.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about issues. Today, we're going to talk about a UN meeting of the Security Council. During a meeting of the UN Security Council, the Israeli UN ambassador Erdan, so he's an Israeli ambassador, not U.S. ambassador, but he's ambassador to the United Nations and the United States.
Right.
Erdan held up a photo of German Chancellor Adolf Hitler and Grand Mufti Al-Husseini. This is the photo he held up. And this is when Adolf Hitler was chancellor. He wasn't dictator for life yet. So it was in the 30s.
Short life, but life.
Right. Al-Husseini was one of the founding fathers of Palestine and was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. Just to give you some background, the Grand Mufti is the highest religious legal figure in a country practicing Sunni Islam. Remember,
Got the Shias,
Iran
the
Shia.
Sunnis, right?
Yeah, Iran Shia, yeah.
Gotcha.
And then the people in power in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, they were Sunnis, that little triangle in the center. And everybody else in Iraq was
And that's why
Shia.
sometimes they all didn't get along, right? I mean, because the Sunnis and the Shias
don't like each other.
Yeah.
So the office originated in the Ottoman Empire, the Grand Mufti, and has been adopted modernly in a number of countries. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem is the Sunni Muslim cleric in charge of Jerusalem's Islamic holy places, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque. All right, so he's got a job to do. Erdan claimed that Al-Husseini was an enthusiastic Nazi supporter whose anti-Semitism was well documented. We already showed you a photo. That's the photo he held up during the meeting. The Grand Mufti pled for Hitler's assistance in getting rid of the British Mandate and the Jewish immigrants coming to the Holy Land. So the Jewish people were seeing, in Europe, were seeing turmoil, right? And so they started streaming back to like a gathering of Israel, so to speak, for lack of better words, and he was against it, right? These requests were ultimately turned down by Hitler. The British Mandate was the legal authority of Britain to rule over the Levant as given by the League of Nations until such time as those nations in the Levant were able to stand alone. Yeah, they would stand up. Erdan explained that the Palestinians' goal of annihilating the Jews was clear long before the establishment of the UN or the State of Israel in the years following World War II. He further said, quote, "And from then until today, the root of this conflict has not changed. It's not a political conflict or about partitioning land." Remember, from the river to the sea?
This is like a genocide, right?
Yeah.
It's like a
solely about the destruction of Israel.
Religious genocide.
And the murder
basically.
of Jews.
Yeah.
This is what he said. He further opined that this would not be a regular state. It would be a Palestine Nazi state. He further accused the UN of committing itself to reinforcing modern-day Nazi jihadists by considering forcing the establishment of a Palestinian terror state. So that's a big jump to say, if they're pro-Nazi 70 years ago, that they're pro-Nazi today, kind of a jump.
Yeah, I don't know if they're full-blown Nazi, like Nazi Germany type Nazis, but they don't like Jews.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's true.
They just don't like Jews, and I
guess that was the same with the Nazis. They didn't like Jews.
Yeah, well, they were like an Aryan race, right? They thought everybody was inferior because they didn't like black people, they didn't like Hispanic people, they didn't like anything other than pure white race. So, but anyway,
and to just we want to, I don't want to say give credit, but what I want to say is, remember Prince of Wales, David, who ascended to the throne when his father died, and he was in love with Wallace Sampson, and then he abdicated, and that's when his brother Albert took the throne, and Albert's
Prince
daughter
Albert became King Albert?
King George.
Whatever
the seventh.
Yeah, whatever they called him.
And then he changed his name, and they can do that. Like Victoria was Katrina. Queen Victoria was Katrina. And so
Victoria sounds better.
Yeah. And so Elizabeth II was King George's Albert's daughter, right? Okay, so So David, Prince of Wales.
I'm pretty impressed with you up on your monarchy pecking order. So
oh, thank you.
It's pretty good.
Well, thank you very much, cousin. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so David had met with Hitler, had meetings in Germany with Hitler. So that would be likening and saying that the people of Britain are sympathetic to Nazis today, which is not true. So
let's hope not.
I don't think you can equate all Palestinians to be pro-Nazi, right? I don't think you can. Not. But there's like the similarities against the hate of the Jews, right?
It's just like all Muslims are not terrorists, right? I mean, there's good Muslims,
right,
you know?
exactly. Predominantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Predominantly,
it's a small group.
They worship Allah, you know. They want to be better people, right? There's extremists that take it a little bit too far,
right?
So what was I going to say? So I think Erdan talking about this and saying this a little bit radical, but he's trying to tie the nexus against anti-Semitism. So the UN Security Council met yesterday, that was Monday the 8th, to revive the Palestinian Authority's hopes of joining the UN as a full member. That's the NSA. Recall that
this is not good, right?
I don't know. You gotta find something. You gotta do something to. I mean, where do you put the Palestinians, right? I mean, that area. They're kind of claiming that area. Where do you put them?
I guess. And I'm not a real big fan of the UN anyway. So.
What about this? This is a radical idea. What about this? You give them a sliver on the left side of Jerusalem that's touching the sea and going down to the river. Maybe you make that 10 miles wide. Maybe you make it 30 miles wide, 100 miles wide. You know, and just give them a sliver. Like.
Well, what do they have now?
They got Gaza over here. They got West Bank over here. There's several places that came from.
And there's Palestinians that live in Israel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I guess they need to have their own
and
place.
people are calling that apartheid because the Knesset is mostly Jewish. It's all Jewish, right? I don't know if you know people who are watching. Put some comments on there if there are actually Palestinians in the Knesset. We'd like to know. So recall that the Palestine Authority administers parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Its forces were driven from Gaza when Hamas seized power in 2007, and it has no authority there. The Security Council, pledged to make a formal decision this month, April 2024, on Palestinian membership in the UN. And a committee that weighs membership applications will meet again this Thursday. Members of its UN delegation reiterated yesterday, that the Palestinian Authority needs to exert control over all the Palestinian territories and negotiate statehood with Israel before it wins statehood. So that means the Palestinians have to come together,
and they have to not approve, but they have to say that Israel is a state, right? Because they don't do that now, right?
Right.
They believe that they're occupying that territory that's theirs.
Remember Yasser Arafat? He was close to trying to get acknowledging an Israel state if they gave them a state.
Yeah, but I mean, he was an odd dude. But anyway, I get it. I think that's what has to happen, right? I mean, they have to acknowledge that Israel that's their thing. That's their country. They have a country, small as it is.
Yeah, I think the problem was prior to World War II, a lot of that place was occupied by Palestinian Arabs, and Jews. And then you remember all the conflicts with the Crusades and stuff, back and forth, the Holy Land. It was a fight,
Right.
And Christians took up the fight for the Jews, to retain Jerusalem and stuff. So that land's been fought over for many years.
Thousands of years.
Yes. An eon, at least. Maybe more.
Yeah, it's a big pot of war, that whole area over there.
But
hotspot.
Let's go back to, and I don't know if on the left-hand side of Israel, as you're looking at Israel, does the Jordan River come that far over where you could sliver off a land to give to the Palestinians, 50, 100 miles, 200 miles wide, and from the sea to the river, give them something like that. that will kind of be bordering Egypt. I think that's the border where the other side of Gaza touches the border of Egypt.
This is my thought and my opinion, but Hamas has got to be completely out of the picture.
Yeah,
in this deal,
terrorist
right?
organization.
Hezbollah, Hamas, any terrorist organization involved in this thing has just got to go.
Hey, ho ho!
And
Hamas has got to go.
And it's got to be policed by somebody. And are the Palestinians going to be? Are they going to be good enough to police it? The UN
to police themselves? You mean?
Police anybody?
Well, that's where they said that the membership thing, they have to stand up. They have to stand up a government and society. But I think it would be wrong to just say, okay, here's this sliver, 100 miles wide, whatever, go, right? And now what do? I mean, they got to help them build, some infrastructure and water.
And we're good at doing that too, right?
Port. Yeah, we could help out.
Sure,
I'm all for helping out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the UN could have, like the Security Council countries could chip in, some money to build a port, to build a road or roads and community, major infrastructure, governmental infrastructure buildings, and no tunnels. Yeah, no tunnels.
Right? Great thought, but I just don't see anybody pitching in and like we pitch in. Maybe there's some countries that do. I don't want to say that absolute, but
let's call that the Richardson Plan. What do you think?
Oh man,
I just gave my last name. Let's call it the Steve Plan.
We do that. We help rebuild countries that we tear apart.
Yeah, so we help them protect their borders too. But we
do. Yeah, we can't seem to do that.
Yeah,
that's another topic for another day.
All right. Well, folks, thanks a lot for joining us. Please comment. Send in the comments.
Yeah, please.
Good or bad. We'd like to see some good, but we'll take the bad too.
Yeah, I love reading the bad. So, you guys have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah.